My name's Linnet Drury. I'm 16. I'm from Oxford Spice Academy. We're recording a podcast about artefacts in the Pitt Rivers Museum, and at the moment we're standing in front of one of the cases that border the ground floor. The ground floor is like a maze of different cabinets which are filled with little objects. It seems quite dark with loads of little lights popping everywhere, but it makes it quite exciting when different objects and faces peer out of the cabinets. We're in front of a cabinet filled with Noh Theatre Masks. There's about 70 of them. They're around your hand size. They seem to be staring out at us, all with different faces and expressions and complexions. It's quite a spooky sight. I'll describe a couple for you. One of them is a Noh mask of a dragon-like god king. It's very angular face with a large pointed nose and sharp cheeks, with a large curving chin that juts out with the jaw, which make the teeth look scary with their black curves and long tongue. The eyes are like big golden balls with holes in them, which make them look quite spooky but also supernatural and interesting. Below it there is a female mask of a young woman, which is much paler and much more proportioned. The eyes are like little slits and the mouth is small with hair parting on each side. It looks quite serene and peaceful. They look quite spooky because many of them are quite pallid, with only a few which are of a slightly darker shade of brown on reds and golds. They have such a pale complexion because the base tones are of crushed eggshells, which are applied onto the wood by the people who make them. When I first came to the Pitt Rivers, I was really surprised to see all these masks staring at me because I'd become quite familiar with them over the last year. In February, I went travelling abroad for the first time, which was a long way because I was going to Japan to go to a wedding of a close family friend of ours. They were more than a friend, really. They'd become part of our family because they'd stayed with us as a language exchange student over several years. So we had become very connected with him. We gave the toast at the wedding, which was a very big honour to us. It was a language and culture which we didn't know, but they invited us in to do that as a special part of their celebration. In Japanese culture, there's a lot of exchanges of gifts at weddings, so we brought over gifts from England, and we were also given a gift which was very special because it was a Noh mask of the great-grandfather-in-law, who was a Noh performer. This is a very treasured item, so we were very honoured to be given one of them. I didn't realise how historic and important and special they could be until I came here and saw all of them, at which point I felt a massive connection to them because of the link between the cultures that had led me to having one. The Noh masks are used in Japanese Noh theatre in a range of different ways. There's usually only one main actor who wears a mask, though they're sometimes accompanied by a companion. And they're supported by a chorus of around 3 people, as well as 3 drummers and a flautist. With the masks, they can portray a large range of emotions by tilting their head, because the masks are designed to create different facial expressions by creating shadows over the eyes or the forehead or under the nose to make them look like they're smiling or crying. So it's a very subtle art. The Noh theatre is very intertwined with dance as well as gestures and is very poetical with different songs about love and grief and friendship. So it's really interesting to see all the different types of masks. Each one represents a different type of character. So there are ones of young women, older men with large beards, warriors with reddened faces from battles, as well as supernatural creatures who have special gold parts, such as their eyes or horns or teeth, in order to convey that they're supernatural. Noh theatre is actually one of the oldest traditional type of theatre that is still performed today. It developed over hundreds of years and became in the form it is traditionally seen with these masks around the 1700s. In that period, it was very linked to spirituality and religion. The samurai would go and watch it as part of their ceremonies, so it would happen at special occasions and festivals, as well as dedications to Buddhist festivals, because it's very interwoven with all the cultures of Japan. It developed and became even more complex with different art forms and no families who performed them, becoming very powerful. But when World War I happened and much of Japanese culture changed, many people didn't think that Noh theatre would survive, but actually the opposite has happened, because before the 20th century it was mainly for the elite as part of the ceremony and tradition, but now it has developed into something that can be viewed by everyone in Japan who wants to link back to their cultural heritage, and it has seen a big growth from that original decline. People are starting to remake these masks and starting to do performances again. Throughout these workshops, I've developed in what I think is hidden in the stories of these masks. I became obsessed by looking through the stories and reading through what the plays would be, because they're so different from the ones that we have in our cultures and what we see in theatres in England. They're much more subtle, thinking about big ideas as opposed to individual storylines. And there's a real emphasis on character, which I find really interesting, because I like writing and acting and participating in creative processes like that. This has made me consider the individual behind the mask much more, which is something that I didn't think I would get out from this workshop, because I didn't realise there could be such a personal connection to these objects. All these faces, even if they might seem daunting at first, now seem quite friendly to me as they unlock something and show me a different kind of storytelling. Right now I'm looking at the label in the cabinet of the Noh Theatre Masks. It describes what they are and where they come from. They came from an exhibition in Kyoto originally, and then this collection was purchased by the Pitt Rivers Museum, and it's one of the largest in Europe. But it doesn't mention anything about the storytelling, which is one of the biggest parts of these masks, and what they convey and how they make you feel. And so I'd encourage people not just to read the label, but to look at the masks themselves. This connection that I now feel with the masks has made me think that I want to develop it out of this podcast and try and look into ways to do Noh theatre and convey the different type of creativity that it has to people in England and around here, because it's something that I never would have known about if I hadn't had that connection with a family. But it's something that's accessible to everyone, and it's all here. We just need to take it on.